When my partner Brandon and I moved into our new apartment in New York City last fall, my parents took the bus down from New Hampshire to visit us and see our new place. As they walked in, they hugged us both tightly, beaming as they took in our new home, and they handed us some housewarming gifts. Some new kitchen towels, a cheese board plate because we love to entertain, just like they do, and a small plastic case, like something you would store paper clips in. Plastic clear on the top, solid blue on the underside. As my mom handed it to me, she said casually, "Kennett High School just celebrated its 100th anniversary. And at the big ceremony, they dug up a time capsule, and Grandpa wanted you to have this." My grandfather died in the year 2000, so needless to say, I wasn't expecting him to send a housewarming gift. As I opened the case, I was struck by the smell of earth and rust. And inside was a typewritten note dated July 10th, 1974. It read, "This identification tag was worn by the Reverend George T. Davidson Jr. during World War II, 1942 to 1946. The note goes on to detail my grandfather's decades-long relationship with Kennett High School. He then goes on to list some of his other accomplishments: Distinguished Educator Award from his alma mater, Bowdoin College. I also went to Bowdoin. Ordained lay minister serving several local area churches. Conductor of a summer camp for boys in New Hampshire. I idolized my grandfather as a kid. He was a true community leader, and he always tried to get the best out of everyone. His arms were always open for a hug, and his ears were always open for counsel. As far as I could tell, my grandfather accepted everyone. And even though he was so supportive all the time, I was his only grandson, and part of me knew deep down that I might not have been the grandson he most would have hoped for. You see, Grandpa loved sports, especially baseball. And I did make my best effort at sports. In elementary school, I even attended baseball camp at the same summer camp that my grandfather had built from scratch in the 1950s. But let's just say that I wasn't a natural. But Grandpa was always there to cheer me on, nonetheless. Even in Little League, as I stood in left field, praying to Judy Garland that the ball would not come to me, Grandpa was still in the bleachers, encouraging me. "Keep your eye on the ball, Kev." I came out to my parents and my sister in college, and they took the news well, all things considered, although they were a little surprised since I had been in a loving relationship with my girlfriend all through high school. But Mom and I decided together not to tell Grandpa because, well, he'd been having some serious heart issues at the time, and he was from a different generation. And we didn't want to cause any undue stress for him in his twilight years. This was 1998, and so all we knew from growing up in Maine was what we saw on the news. If you were gay, you were going to get AIDS, and you were going to die. So we didn't tell him. Grandpa died less than a year and a half after I came out to everyone else. Although I'm not a minister or a baseball coach, I do direct opera, theater, and film for a living, which is kind of the same thing. And I have returned to that camp that my grandfather built every summer, often directing super queer indie films, starring my friends in the woods in their spangly feathered headdresses. Mom and Dad trying in earnest to get everyone's pronouns right. In World War II, my grandfather served in the Pacific on Tinian Island. As a kid, my grandfather told me that when he was leaving the island after the war, he looked back and saw rows and rows of white crosses on the green hillside. He told me that he had promised himself in that moment that if any of those men could come back and ask him what he had done with his life, that he would be able to say that he made the world a little bit better because of the sacrifice they made. So here I am with my grandfather's dog tag, a gift he gave me 3 years before I was conceived, now arriving in my hands 24 years after he left us. And for me, the sign could not have been clearer. I felt like Grandpa was still cheering me on, still encouraging me, still reminding me to keep trying to make the world a little bit better. And for me, that means telling stories about our shared queer history, about the queer community that I cherish, and about the many queer ancestors that we have lost, our own crosses on our own hillside. Even if Grandpa could not have completely understood me then, I feel like he understands me now. With this precious time capsule gift, I can still hear my grandfather's voice in my ear. I am proud of you, Kev. Keep your eye on the ball. Thank you so much.